Welcome to TheoTrade. This is Don Kaufman, May 25th, 2022. We are 17 minutes after the cash close here on this Wednesday afternoon, waiting on NVIDIA to release their earnings announcements. Because I got to tell you, this particular earnings announcement, this is the order flow for the remainder of the week. What that ultimately means is, listen, NVIDIA is actually going to make or break the Nasdaq. They miss, something big happens over here, we can turn into an absolute bidless beast of a marketplace, much more specifically, of course, to the Nasdaq. But again, a tremendous amount of order flow hinges on NVIDIA, because this is the only mega market capitalization underlying that we have, right, at this point in the game. Meaning, like, I know, Alibaba's coming out with earnings announcements and so forth, but this is a pivotal underlying inside of the Nasdaq, whereas Baba is not. Okay, this is a pivotal underlying inside of the S&P 500, which again, this is it. I mean, it was weeks ago when we actually heard from the likes of Google and Microsoft, and a lot has obviously transpired since. Can you imagine, Target rocked the marketplace, as recent as last week. NVIDIA, though, and the magnitude, and I talk about mega market capitalization. What I'm actually referencing in this particular case, the $425 billion company. Obviously, it's going to shift a tremendous amount of order flow, specific, of course, to the Nasdaq. Again, waiting on it any minute. While we're actually waiting on NVIDIA earnings, whether they come out or not, okay, you got to understand, though, that that is going to really drive the flow for the remainder of this week. And I'm going to talk expressly about that order flow and some really pivotal levels. Also, what we've seen is a degree of a volatility reset. And of course, this day wouldn't be complete without the FOMC minutes. And it was a rather hawkish Fed. Now, I read those minutes through and through, and everything that I was able to discern from the previous FOMC meeting was completely and totally hawkish, which is effectively they're getting aggressive in raising rates. I mean, it's a hawkish Fed. NVIDIA looms large. That's all that we have to look forward to and latch on to in this marketplace. Meanwhile, here on this Wednesday afternoon, yeah, the S&P's got a bid back under them. But a 32 or 33 point move, like, you have to really rationalize how minimal this is. Like, there's not a lot that I'm looking at inside of markets right now that's incredibly positive. Now, again, I was mentioning this in the weekend update. It's incredibly cliche at this point to say that we're oversold. It's also very apparent that a lot of people are latching on to this idea that because you have 7 down weeks in a row, that the 8th week has got to be the charm. We've got to get a bid back under us. We're coming into a holiday weekend, and we are. And I think about those aspects, but the reality in NVIDIA must be out, because here we go, people. You're seeing some order flow being jammed right into the marketplace here. We'll come back to the SPX momentarily. NVIDIA, again, is coming out in a big, big way. It is right now trading to the downside, quite considerably to the downside. Just saw the S&Ps, which were up 33 handles, coming off in kind of a big way. It's far from over. Obviously, there's a conference call coming in here as well. The expectations of movement were just shy of a $20 move. What has transpired thus far? Well, $20 move, yeah, we're inside it. We're considerably inside it. But as I said, it's very early on in the process. Look at this. It's even bidding back up. A lot, again, can happen in order flow, but this is what's going to kind of dictate. And, I knew this coming on here, recording, this video this evening. This thing was just going to be a wild child. Tried to time it pretty good with the earnings coming out. But I also know that this conference call is going to change the way that a lot of people feel about that earnings announcement. And by the way, And people are probably thinking, well, what were the numbers? It's neither here nor there. Allow order flow to dictate, okay, what's going on. Don't try to interpret anything. Interpret the order flow. This is a product that was trading, let's call it $170. Has almost a $20 expected move. So if it hit like the 150 level, we're home. And of course, it's going to be a little bit of the unwind, if you would, of the Nasdaq. Now, again, that hasn't necessarily transpired here. If anything, it's got a little bit of a bid back under it. It's just, you can see us destabilized at this point in the game. So let's go back to the SPX and make a couple quick points, and we'll let NVIDIA kind of play out. By the way, they're really like these NASDAQ futures, they are jumping, they are hopping right now. Couldn't have been more clear about that's what's going to dictate order flow. You're like, one company? I mean, listen, Target, Walmart last week, okay? Target was like a watershed moment for the entire marketplace. NVIDIA is actually a huge company. Can you imagine, right? A dramatic miss, or for instance, guiding lower, the damage that would inflict upon the markets. As I was actually stating, in the SPX, there are far too many people right now looking at the fact that, well, we've been down 7 consecutive weeks. We have to get a bid back under us. The point that I would like to make on that particular front is very simple in context. Okay, here's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So here we are in the 8th week, and it is bid back up. But the point to be taken away from previous weeks, there are some breaches of expected move, but they're rather minimal. The point that I would actually assume from here is that nothing outrageous or outlandish has actually occurred, okay, in the SPX. So just because it's, well, we've had 7 out of 7, to the downside, doesn't mean anything. There's no huge, statistical aberrations. We're not moving like, 2 and 3 sigmas on a week-to-week basis. What I'm saying is right now, hedging activity, everything's actually rather efficient inside of the SPX. It's just efficient to the downside. Now, you may not like that, okay? But the truth be told, again, just because the market's had, a couple of down weeks doesn't necessarily mean it's not like a coin flip that 7 times it came up tails. Does that mean on the 8th flip, it's gonna, it's gonna change the outcome? Absolutely not. And again, you have to rationalize that there is some, behavior where people are like, it's got to rally. And yeah, we're in, again, that cliche statement that we're in oversold territory. Well, nobody cares if NVIDIA misses or says something during that earnings call. It's going to change the way you feel about this marketplace. I mean, listen, just move the S&P futures down by 13 handles. Okay, it's one underlying. All right, inside of the SPX. We started the week right around 3,900. We rallied a decent amount on Wednesday. Here we are up about 78 handles. However, we are looking, okay, for as much as plus or minus $126 move. Here we are, but you can already see that got kind of cut. Again, the S&P has continued to kind of come off. So you've already given back a lot of the gains of today. We're somewhere in this neighborhood here now of coming close to this 3950 inside of the SPX. It's more than a hop, skip, and jump away to the upper and or lower edge of the expected move. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is, listen, I think you need to strap in and get ready for some more volatility, because quite frankly, all I see in the last 5 trading sessions is a volatility slop fest. For the most part, we're grinding mildly higher here, but your 5 trading sessions in the exact same standard deviation. In fact, I think what prints this even nicer, come back over to the S&P futures, and we're actually going to drop into a 30-day 1 hour. Inside of the 30-day 1 hour, now you understand exactly what I'm saying. Okay, what have we done? For the most part, nothing. I mean, that's some of the smallest movement that we've actually seen. All right, one other aspect in here, it's absolutely pivotal. If the markets back off again, specific to the S&P futures, okay, we've identified a gravity point now at 39.31. If you haven't marked it on your screen, mark it on your screen, 39.31. Okay, it's kind of a stopping point along the way, and you will see if you actually pull up 39.31 inside of the S&P futures. And again, that is the M22 contract. You will see how pivotal this level happens to in fact be. It's what we term a gravity point. That is effectively that trade will migrate back down to this 39.31 as many times as it possibly can. As we actually move higher or lower off the 39.31 level, you'll see huge bursts of volume when you're about 10 to 12 points higher or 10 to 12 points lower than that particular gravity point. Much more about that, of course, here in TheoTrade. The other aspect that really kind of sticks with me. So again, the FOMC came out today with the minutes. They were extraordinarily hawkish. There's nothing else to tell you on that front other than you had the Fed ultimately saying in those minutes, we're ready to go, and they can actually get even more aggressive. At the same time, the marketplace rallied. I think the irony of the marketplace rallying on a hawkish Fed is that the last truly sustainable rally that we saw was actually right back here. Well, that was actually the Fed announcement. It was 2 hours with a huge burst to the upside. Again, today, it's a pretty negligible move to the upside. What I have an issue with at this point, volatility has completely reset itself. This is where you got to be a little bit concerned. VIX has come down substantially. Has the market rallied? No, not really. By the way, I don't want to hear that we rallied. If you haven't picked up on that, this is not about being bullish or bearish. I don't want to hear it because we haven't. I mean, we're just bottom fishing at this point, bobbing along the bottom. It doesn't matter that, oh, here we are at 39.58. Okay, we're hop, skip it, a jump off. Big reactionary low of 38.07, which is, within reach. That's within striking distance of one down day. So what has actually occurred is there's a lack of conviction in the marketplace at this point, and volatility has just kind of backed off. It's dangerous at this point because not only has the VIX backed off, which means that nobody's rushing out there to buy S&P puts, okay? What else confirms it? The VVIX volatility, the volatility index doesn't look like anybody's like stepping in to like buy a bunch of, calls in the VIX. So calls in the VIX would be a hedge if the marketplace crashed. Nobody's doing that right now. Okay. What else is not transpiring? Skew. Skew is inherently low. It's incredibly low. It's low versus, what it has been. In fact, to look at this on the 10-year, this is where skew happens to be. I can't look at that as being a great thing for markets in the near term. Why? Because ultimately, what you have here is, again, lack of kind of conviction. There's lack of interest in the marketplace. And I think people are starting to throw the towel in. Okay. And in doing so, well, maybe we can actually, I think the positive point of that is maybe we can actually find a bottom because people are kind of throwing a towel in. But in the near term, you have to recognize that a huge number of traders, okay, proprietary trading firms, market makers, evidently, they're not rushing to buy puts. But if the marketplace is to kind of migrate to the downside, okay, volatility has already had a complete and utter reset at this point. We could go right back into, again, a marketplace starts to spiral out of control to get that volatility a little bit higher. But the point of me going through any of this is to reiterate, okay, there's no conviction behind trade. Without conviction behind trade, without fear behind trade, there is no bottom in place. And that's probably the largest takeaway, okay, from this. And again, there's like a lack of conviction. People are starting to throw the towel in. We haven't seen, okay, any explosive move in volatility. And I'm not a believer that the VIX has to shoot into like the 40 or 45 handle. But I'll tell you what, unequivocally, okay, this to me just doesn't have the makings of a marketplace in a capitulation type phase. Some people are throwing the towel in, but that's largely based on like option volume. Again, there's like almost like a degree of complacency that we've sold off in a larger sense. So back over to NVIDIA, as I said, this is going to be a quite a little run over here. NVIDIA is back up. It's down about between $10 to $13 an after hours trade. Touchdown right to the 152, which is very, very close to the lower edge of its expected move. You can see that order flow in the Nasdaq is all over the place. Okay, Obviously, some people probably are a little bit curious about what's going on inside of, Baba will have earnings as well. This is one where, again, it's not nearly as pivotal, okay, to what the marketplace is effectively doing right here, right now. It's pretty much all NVIDIA and order flow being driven from NVIDIA in the next like 24 to 48 hours of trade. I mean, right through into Friday's close. Again, we are going into a holiday weekend. Nevertheless, right, some bad news in the NVIDIA front is going to drive markets a huge amount. So obviously a little bit more of a bid back under us, okay? If we're going to trade lower, look for us to stop along the way at that 39.31. Under that level, we don't really have anything, okay? And, to see the marketplace rally at this point, great, okay? Maybe it lasts a couple of days. Maybe we get all the way back to 42.11. But as I said, there's not a lot of conviction behind trade, okay? I think you still have to look at any rally, even if we got backed up to the 42.11, is likely to be sold into because there are just so many people. They're not only throwing the towel in, they're looking to get out of longer term investments. Okay. Why trade is not out there rushing to buy puts? Okay. Well, simple. Again, it's complacency in this marketplace. So again, a hawkish Fed and NVIDIA still looming large. Thanks everybody for joining us here at TheoTrade. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.